Hey everybody. So I've been noticing on a lot of the Facebook pages that people are asking the same question over and over again. How do I hook up my effects? And it depends on what they're talking about, whether it's a 4-track, guitar amp, the Tascam 32, and anything. So I decided that this week I'm going to focus on setting up effects, and I'm going to be doing it on my bass amp, because that one has actually two different ways to hook up effects. Then I have a Tascam. Got this little bugger here. Got Tascam. This would be the 424, or mine's a sorry. This is a 414, not a 424. 414. How to hook it up onto there? I have this little Behringer mixer, and I also have, well, I have my full Tascam, and then I'm also going to hook it up onto my big 464 4-track. So we're going to go through all the steps. The biggest one, the longest one will probably be the Tascam one, because there's many different ways that you can hook up outboard effects onto that system. But that's what we're going to talk about today, and I hope you stick around for the whole thing. So we're going to start off with pretty much the most common one that everybody knows, which is you have your guitar, bass in this case, plugged in directly into the pedal, in this case a flanger, and then that of course just goes directly into the amp, as you can see, and that just gives you your sound. So let's try. I have no idea what this is set. And you have your flanger. And there's your effect. So that's the way that, 99% of people set up their effects. Now the thing is, I'm going to show you this here. Let's go back down to my bass amp. Hold on a sec. There we go. So now on my bass amp, I have right here, I have a preamp out and a power amp in. Now what that is, that's pretty much a in and out. So I'm going to move stuff around here. So guitar now plugged into the bass, directly into the amp. I'm now taking the preamp out, and I'm plugging that into the flanger, and then the flanger then goes back into the bass amp. So once again, play with it. This is just off. Turn on the flanger. Now, I generally use it this way, mainly because then I have my bass amp coming clean in, no effects. All this stuff here is then getting EQ'd the way I want, and then it goes into the effect, and then the effect just goes through. You don't have to do it this way. I like to do it this way. A lot of people don't. They'll just do from the bass into the effects and then into the system. So this is something not every amp has this. This one does. I know, like my friend's Twin Reverb does not have this system, so he has to go from guitar pedal in. And I know there's other ones that don't, and then there's some that do. But it's up to you how you want to set this up. I know that there's a video out where the guy talks about setting up the some Boss metal pedal and setting it up as a preamp as opposed to a pedal in line. Well, that would be set up this way. So now we'll move on to the next step, which is going to be my little Behringer mixer. So now we've moved over to my Behringer. This is my mini mixer. I use this whenever I do any kind of overheads on the Tascam, which you can see over here on this side. And you see my PlayStation, which is for the Rocksmith. So in this case, I think this is what a lot of guys who, when they go to the Porta Studio, they expect to see this setup, which is, sorry, I'm getting over a cold right now. They're expecting to see an in or an out. So here's the effects out for this board, and then they have 2 ins. So it's pretty simple to hook up, and it's it's based off of it's a simple principle. Most mixing boards have this setup where you have 1 out and then 2 ins for the channel, and then that way you get stereo out of it. So now I've hooked up my bass again, and my bass is here. I got effects in. Turn on the flanger again, and so this is like, once again, an easy setup, because you got it coming in, and you got it going out, and then you got it coming in 2 separate channels, and it's all done by its own level. So as you can see, now I really don't use this that often. It's like an extra channel on the system. So that's this one, and we're gonna go to the 414 now to look at how to do it on there. All right, so now we're at the Porta Studio 414. This is pretty much the same setup as the Behringer, but I would say this is more the way I have it set up right now, because I have the effects send in, so this is going into the out, and then I have 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 are both set up as the returns. But I think, well, they're stereo returns, so and they're not in this case. I'm doing both mono. I think that this is more for, final mix down. You've recorded all your tracks, and now you're adding final effects. So in this case, I'm still doing flanger. What I did was I have the effect coming through track 1. I have the bass plugged in track 1, and it's not set to record or anything. I just have the mic line in, and it's working. So, and then I have the effect. So in this case, there's an effect level for that one. So turn on the flanger, and you can turn down so I don't get as much. Now, this is great if you're gonna, final recording kind of thing. Then you can do like a stereo thing. Actually, I can do a stereo thing. Hang on one sec. Oops, just putting the bass down. I'm gonna turn this off for a second. Actually, just turn the levels down here. Let's do this. I do have a stereo hookup. So, there. Now, 5 and 6. Let's see. There you go. Now you're getting the cool stereo from it. But yeah, the way this is set up is more for, would be a final mix down. So I would probably, if I were to do this, I would probably do it more where I'm recording the effect into the tracks. Now, granted, in this case, can't really do it. It's not, it's not that big. So either you go direct into the guitar, into the effect, into the system, which you would do probably with distortion, or this would be more for like a final mix down. You'd use one effect for one thing and then the other effect for the other, and then when you're playing it, and then you're doing the final mix to whatever your computer, another system. I have no idea how you would do it, what you would do, but that is what it would seem to me. All right, so I guess we'll move on to we're going to move on to the other Tascam, the 464 this time. So this is my big 4-track. This is the 464. I use this to record the For My Dear Friend album. This is what it was done on. Okay, so now this guy has some interesting stuff. So not only is there an effects loop on it, so you have your effects here, effects 1, 2, just like you do on everything else, just 2 effects. You also have what's called an insert. Now what an insert does is it goes in between the signal that comes in through either the XLR or the 1/4 inch, and then it goes through whatever processing you have hooked up. Now generally when you do this, it's generally a compressor you put on there because you're trying to level out like vocals or something. Now in this case it only has it on tracks 1 and 2, but that's not a problem. That's more than enough. So what I did was I did the insert, so that's what this is right here. That's why I pushed the thing over as much as I could. So it goes into the flanger again, and so without the flanger, and then I hit the flanger, and now it's doing it as an insert. So that means that it's getting recorded. What's coming in was actually getting pushed onto the track if I was actually recording at this point. So it is nice because it works the same way as like the preamp out and the line in on my bass amp. So it's the same concept, but yeah, generally when I use it on the compressor, so then it would gate and then it would also compress the vocals. So it just more or less just level out the vocal sound. So that's one way of hooking this up. So I'm going to show you the other way. Just turn this off for a sec. So what we do, take the flanger. Right now it's going through the insert, so pull the insert out. And we set it up as an effects loop. So effects loop, so I got 1, 2, and then effects loop 1 is right there. And then effects loop 2. So I'm just going to put it in 5. I'm not going to bother doing stereo in this case. So now track 5 will be used for the effect. Now once again, this is more like a afterthought. You know, you've recorded everything and now you just want to add some effects to the system to see how it sounds. So we'll turn this on again. Make sure it's on. I think it's got to be on main. So there's my bass with no effect. Okay, it's on. So now I'm trying to figure out how to do this. It's going through the effect loop. It is going through the effect loop. I don't know how to work this. Alright, well let's move to 9 then. 9 has its own level. And 9 doesn't seem to want to do it either. Yeah, it just doesn't want to do it. Well, that's how you would do it. Now why it's not coming through, I don't know. It's been... So, otherwise you do it this way. Sounds like you got nothing. It's not upright. Ah. I don't know. All right, well, I was hoping to show you how to do that. Doesn't seem to want to work. Oh, now it's working. Oh, maybe it wasn't right. So 1, 2, 3. Odd. All right, well, I tried. I don't know why it's not working. Now it's coming through. Because there's 1, 2, 3. 3 is the one I want. Oh. I didn't have Effects Master up. There you go. Now it works. Just gotta know how to work this thing, that's all. So, that's how it works. So that's number 2. That's the 464. So once again, you can use it as an afterthought. You can use it as an insert. You can use it in this case. Yeah, use it as an insert. Use it as an afterthought, or you can just record it directly, which would be just plug it in right here. There you go. Just destroy everything. There we are. So that's that. So now we'll move on to the 32 track Porta Studio. That's the biggest one here. So yeah, this is going to be the big one that we do here. So all right, so what I've done, I have going through track 8. I have my bass, as you can hear. And now in the case of effects out, I always use effects out. I like them better. I like the way they work. You can use the same effect over and over on on all the channels if you want, because you set how much effects you use. So first off, your effect send is about here. This is just after the monitor. Now I'm only showing this part of the screen because that's your main focus in this case, and so I just wanted to make it as easy as possible for everyone to see how this is done. So got my bass. I'm doing that through track H. I'm doing it track 8, and I'm using input H. Now what I've done is on E and F, I have put the effects out. You have to put it somewhere. There's no send back, so it has to go somewhere. Now you have different ways of using the effect. You can record the effect into the system because you can use the effect by recording it into the system. So let's say I say, okay, well, track 31, 32, I want that to have E and F coming in. So then I hit record on track 31, 32. So now track E and F, or input E and F, are coming in onto track 32. So now if I hit my flanger's on. Why is it not coming on? Oh, because 32 is down. Oh yeah. So sorry, I'm still getting over a cold. So now the other thing you have to do is you have to set your send. Now I always say just set the masters to full, because if they're not being used, they're not being used. So you have two settings. You have pre and you have post. What pre does, hang on, I'm just going to take a quick drink here. Okay. What pre does is whatever's been recorded, it will send it over to wherever the effect, or it'll send it to the effect how much you want. Now the nice thing about that is, let's say you're doing something where you're more or less pushing your sound across, and you're going to use the effect in the end. So you can have the fader down all the way on the track. You have it going through through the effect. So therefore you're not hearing the original while you're hearing the effect version. It's kind of nice that way. Now in this case we're going to do post because I'm doing this live. So now, as you can see, so track 8 now has effect send. There's nothing coming through, but as I move it up, now you're hearing the effect. So that's one way of doing this. That's if you want to record it onto its own track. I generally recommend that one because I generally will use, like, I'll use the effects. I like that because then I can fade the effects how I want it. And there's, it's 32 tracks, so it's not that big of a deal to give one up for that. So, all right, so that's setting number 1. That's doing it directly onto the track. So I'll just track 32, clear it out. There, clear it out. So now step number 2. This is kind of an afterthought one, because this is what you would do if you were doing, when you're doing your mastering, you would put it onto the stereo bus. So in this case, we use E and F. And now what happens is it comes through the stereo bus. Now, once again, I have to go to the mixer. I should have just left this, but post. Now the thing is, it's mono. So what I do is I'm in the mixer. I click on the source for track E. I pan it. Put track F, and I pan it. So now you can hear it's panned. Now the other nice thing about this is that, let's say you do want to hear, you're recording vocals, you don't want to record the vocals with the reverb on it. See, then you can do it through the sub channels, the stereo select, the stereo bus, and then what happens is that you have the reverb coming through there. You're recording track 1, your vocals, but the reverb isn't getting recorded with it. It's kind of nice that way. Then you have your dry channel on track 1, and you can go record your vocals. So I guess this is everything for this episode. I can't think of anything else that you can do with the effects. I think I've pretty much covered all different aspects of it and how to use it. Now, granted, I was using a flanger for all of this. I do recommend that if you do this kind of, you're doing this on a mixer and you're using recording, that you use like rack mounted stuff, or use something that's designed specifically to be used that way. Like I have a rack mounted reverb that I use, which is designed to be used for recording and that. So I hope you enjoyed this. Like and subscribe. Yeah, I will. I'm going back to the 4-track challenge after this one. Still working on drums, and we'll continue on with some other stuff. So thanks for watching, and have a good day.